video of what I did in class as far as helping learn how to clean up a spreadsheet as well as calculate averages and some ratios. So in this spreadsheet we have some data that students acquired from looking at the internet about how much 1 inch outside diameter, 7/8 inside diameter square tubing costs at various companies. Alright, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 headings, the company name, type of metal, the length of the metal, and the price that was given. You notice we have some white space here, so I'm going to get rid of that white space, and I do that, actually let me back up for a second. So this is a spreadsheet, and each spreadsheet is composed of individual units called cells. Okay? And it's just a great way, a spreadsheet is a great way to organize. If you have lots of information with different headings, and you also are expecting to have to use that information to come up with some statistics or some visualizations of trying to make sense of all this data. So the spreadsheet is a great tool for that. So the cell here, each of these little cells, these little boxes, can have an address. And their address is designated by what column and what row they're in. So this cell here is B3. This cell here is A1. Now you can format individual cells how you like them. The kind of the go-to way is to click a cell and go up to format. And you'll be able to format the cells in different ways. You know, the bold, italicize, where to lines, if the text wraps around, lots of different things. There's also shortcuts on your toolbar here that will allow you to format your cells. You can change how many decimal points are shown, whether you want it to look like have dollar signs, whether you want it to be a percentage. More formats, you can also change the size. All these tools kind of are a quicker way of doing it necessarily than going to the format. Alright, if you type in some data and you end up having white space that you don't want, we're going to clean this up, make it look a little more professional. You can delete whole rows, you can delete whole columns. You can do that by selecting the rows or columns you want to delete. So if I click over here on this row 3, then I can either go up to edit and delete the whole row, or I can also, if I have a mouse, I can right click, or if I have a mouse pad, I can click with both fingers and bring up these options here and delete the row from there. I can do more than one row or column at a time if I click and hold down the button, and then you got to be off of it before you do that. If I click on 3 and then drag down, I can then delete more than one at a time. Now that I have all the records here, I'm going to call each one of these rows a record. I don't have any white spaces. I do now want to set apart my headings. So you can choose how you want to set apart your headings, but I'm going to bold mine and change the color. If I want to do it for more than one at a time, I can drag and select 3 cells and do them all at once. And I'm going to italicize this one rather than bold it. It's a little different. It's more of a description. Alright, good. And now if you notice when I scroll on down, the headings disappear. Well, I can make these headings always show if I freeze. Use a function called freeze. I can either freeze rows or columns. In this case, I want to freeze the first 2 rows. And all I need to do that is go up to View, Freeze, and choose what I want to freeze. I want to freeze 2 rows. Now, if you want to freeze more than 2 rows, you have to actually select, a cell in row 17, and then if I go up to View, Freeze, it'll say up to row 17. But just by default, anywhere I am on the screen, I can automatically freeze the first 2 rows or the first 2 columns. So if I do that, you notice there's a little darker gray line here that separates the headings from the rest of the spreadsheet. If I scroll on down, it stays there. Alright, because I froze these 2 rows, it also allows me now that I can kind of treat everything else a little bit separate than the headings. And I can now look for duplicates in my data. Okay, different students might have found the same information. And so then that means I can sort all these records. The easiest way to duplicate or to find duplicates is to sort them and I can go up to data, sort the sheet, and I can sort by columns, A to Z, or I can go backwards. So, and what that means by that is if I have a cell in column B, I can go up and I can sort all these records by what's in that column, what's in the cell of that column. And I can do it alphabetically, so A through S. So if I wanted to figure out, the types of metals, how many stainless steel there were, I could sort them and easily see all the stainless steels. What I want to do though is I think it'll help me to find the duplicates if I sort by company. So I'm going to select a cell in column A, go up to data, sort sheet by column A. You notice then it'll sort them all here. Okay. As I go through now and look for duplicates, I can see, well, Amazon, I have 2 aluminums that are 6 feet, and they also the exact same cost. So these are probably duplicate records, and I only want to keep one. So I'm going to delete. In fact, this one's probably duplicate too, because 72 inches is 6 feet. So I'm going to delete 2 of these and keep the rest. I'm going to go through this whole I'll just do that real quick. Delete those. Okay, now I got one from Amazon that's 6 feet, aluminum 49. Oh, looks like I got another one here even. So I'm going to delete that one. So I just end up with one single record, not all those duplicates. Okay, I'm also going to change the length of metal, okay, to where it's only a number. Because if it's only a number, if I don't have 6 feet, notice it changed it to the right. Once I put text in a cell, it automatically thinks everything in the cell is text, not necessarily a number. But all I have is number. This spreadsheet recognizes that and say, oh, okay, this is something different now. It's going to click it over here, and I'll be able to do some math on it. Okay. So as I go through looking for duplicates, I'm also going to change this to only the amount of feet. 48 inches is 4 feet. Okay. And that way I'll be able to do some math on it afterwards. All right. I'm going to go ahead and edit this so it looks nice. Okay, now that I've edited the data where I've deleted all the duplicates, okay, I've changed the length of metals to where it's only a number. And I kind of formatted also to make sure all these had dollar signs. Okay, and I can just do that by selecting all of them. And then either go into format or I can use a shortcut button as format as currency. Alright, now what I want to do here is I know that I want to find some sort of conclusion from this data. Okay, I want to get something out of this. And the thing I want to get is, hey, on average, I'd be curious to know how much steel costs right now. Or how much this square tubing, depending, it could be steel, aluminum, or whatever, okay, how much it costs. And so I got prices here in a bunch of different companies, a bunch of different types. If I were to just take the average price of this, all right, it wouldn't be quite an accurate way of representing the data, because each one of these is a different length. Right? So what I need to do first is I need to be able to compare, what the cost from Amazon of stainless steel is, to exactly, what Boltmaster might offer, but in the same length. Right? And an easy way to do that is to calculate a unit rate. The unit rate is a ratio, a comparison of two things, where one of the things is compared, where the first quantity is compared to one of the other. So another way to think about that is if I find the cost per foot for every single record here, then I can compare them a little more accurately. So if I have $41.80 for 6 feet of stainless steel at Amazon, I would divide $41.80 by 6 to find out how much 1 foot costs. And Excel can do that very easily. It can do a lot of different functions, actually. It can do the regular add, subtract, multiply, divide, and it can do more sophisticated functions. All right. Anytime you're going to do a function in Excel, though, whether you insert a function from up here or whether you create your own, okay, you're going to need an equal sign. And then in this case, we're just going to do simple division. So I'm going to say, hey, I want you to take whatever's in cell D3. So I'm going to select cell D3. And I'm going to use a backslash for division. Use the star for multiplication, by the way. And I'm going to say divide that by whatever's in C. Now if I push enter, okay, it automatically calculates, hey, how much? $6.97 per 1 foot. A lot of times they'll give you a good autofill too, and it says, hey, I noticed you did something up above there mathematically. I'm curious, do you want to do the same thing for every single record you got here? And in this case, yeah, we do. So I could push this check mark and wada bing, it calculates them all for me right away. Pretty handy. Okay. Now, for some reason, if the autofill didn't work, there is another method. You can go over here to this blue square, and if you click and drag, you can copy down the function you just created down along, and it gives you the same thing. All right, so this is a unit rate, so I better put a heading on that, unit rate, and I am going to copy the formatting, use this paint format, so it looks the same as the other ones. And the last thing I want to teach you, or two things I guess. The first is, now that we got a unit rate, now we're comparing apples to apples. Everything is compared to 1 foot of length. Now we can find an average to get kind of an average cost per foot of metal square tubing. So I'm going to put myself a heading here, average. And I need to use another Excel function here. Now this time I'm going to insert it. Okay, instead of pushing the equals and trying to create it myself, I'm going to just go up to insert function. All right, and you see up here there's 5 really common ones, and there's lots of other functions that you can use. Okay, but we want the average, so function, I'm going to insert an average function, and you notice there's got parentheses here. What it's waiting for you to do is to select the range, to select all the cells that you want it to take an average of. And you can do that by just clicking and dragging all the way up to the cells that you want. If you need to grab other cells elsewhere in the spreadsheet, you can also use push down control and then select as many as you need. Okay, but I don't need these ones, so I don't need those. I'm just going to escape and then redo it. Insert function average. So these are the ones I want to take an average of. Push enter. And it gives me an average cost overall out of all the records that I have from my research on the internet, $6.76 per square foot of 1 inch 7/8 square tubing. So now I want to come up with a conclusion or two from that data. So I'm going to write down my conclusion. I'm going to put it as a heading first. Copy the format again. And in this case, I'm going to give myself some more white space to type a sentence or two in. And I can do that, I can kind of combine different cells to give myself a little more space. So if I click and drag, select some cells, there's this button. I can either do it up here, format, or I can click a button here that says merge cells. So I got some good white space, and I can say, from looking at prices on the internet, I conclude that on average, 1 inch outside diameter, 7/8 inside diameter square metal tubing costs $6.76 per foot. Another thing to mention too is, does this make sense to you from your own experience? That's one thing you could measure. That's one thing you could put in your conclusion. You could also say what your limitations of your analysis are. What I mean by that is, what didn't we look at? Well, this did not take into account the cost of different. This did not take into account the difference, if any, in cost between different metals types. Okay. Push enter. My stuff got cut off, but I can actually fix that pretty easy. Again, if something's formatted in the cell that you don't like, you can go up to format and search for some options. In this case, I'm looking for wrapping. Right now it's clipping. Okay, right now it's going to the edge of the cell and boom, it's done. It can't go any further. If I want to wrap the text to the next line, I can put that, and there I go. Alright, so this is a quick video on how to do a little bit of formatting, putting data into a spreadsheet, and then being able to find some averages as well as unit rates.